They called him the second teacher. Not because he stood in the shadow of someone else's legacy, but because he revived it, elevated it, and redefined it for a new world. The first teacher was Aristotle. The second was Al-Farabi. And in many ways, what Aristotle began, Al-Farabi perfected. This man didn't just preserve Greek philosophy in a time when Europe had largely forgotten it, he breathed new life into it, fusing it with the soul of Islamic thought, crafting something profound, powerful, and enduring. If you've ever wondered what it looks like when wisdom transcends civilizations, when logic dances with revelation, and when philosophy becomes a tool for both understanding the universe and living virtuously, then Al-Farabi is the man you need to meet. He was born around 872 CE, in Farab, now a part of Kazakhstan. In a world that was still learning to read its own reflection, Al-Farabi stared into the depths of both the Greek mind and the Quranic soul. His life was not one of political power or grand displays, but of relentless scholarship, solitude, and deep contemplation. He wandered from Farab to Baghdad, the intellectual capital of the Islamic world at the time, immersing himself in the rich libraries, surrounded by translations of Plato, Aristotle, Galen, and others. But unlike those who merely consumed, Al-Farabi synthesized. He asked, what is the nature of reality? What is the purpose of human life? Can reason and revelation coexist without contradiction? What made Al-Farabi unique was not simply that he studied Aristotle or Plato, it's that he understood them. He could penetrate their work so deeply that even later philosophers like Avicenna and Averroes considered him the master. And when he read Aristotle's Organon, a collection of logical treatises, he didn't just accept them. He reorganized them, clarified them, and brought them into conversation with Islamic theology. Logic, to Al-Farabi, was not some dry academic discipline. It was the very language of truth. It was how humans ascend from ignorance to understanding, from error to knowledge, from confusion to clarity. And yet, for all his brilliance, Al-Farabi never lost sight of something deeper, that knowledge must lead to virtue. This is where his genius truly shines. In his eyes, the ultimate goal of philosophy was not just to think, but to live rightly. And for a society to thrive, it needed not only good laws, but good souls. He envisioned a virtuous city, echoing Plato's Republic, but fused with Islamic ideals. The leader of such a city, he said, must be both philosopher and prophet, both wise and divinely guided. In this way, Al-Farabi bridged the gap between Athens and Medina, between Aristotle's logic and Muhammad's message. But let's go deeper, into the structure of Al-Farabi's thought. At the core of his metaphysics was the concept of emanation. Drawing from Neoplatonism, he described a hierarchy of existence. At the top is the necessary existent, God, pure intellect, pure being. From this emanates the first intellect, then others in a descending order, until we reach the active intellect. The one that connects with human minds. This framework allowed Al-Farabi to explain how the one, the divine, could give rise to the multiplicity of the universe without division or change. In doing so, he offered a cosmology that satisfied both philosophical rigor and theological faith. Now, you might ask, why does this matter? Why should we care about metaphysics in the 21st century? Because Al-Farabi was doing something we still struggle with today. He was building bridges. Between reason and faith. Between East and West. Between the sacred and the rational. His work reminds us that knowledge need not be at war with belief, that tradition and innovation can walk hand in hand. He is a model for how to think clearly in a world full of noise, how to ground oneself in wisdom rather than ideology. And his ideas weren't just abstract. In his book of music, Al-Farabi explored the mathematical and emotional dimensions of sound, treating music as a science of harmony and healing. In his political philosophy, he warned of ignorant societies, corrupt cities, and the chaos that results when power is divorced from virtue. He dissected the different types of governments, not just to criticize, but to offer a vision of what could be. A city governed by those who seek truth and live it, not those who chase power for its own sake. Think about that. A man living over 1,000 years ago had a clearer understanding of leadership than many of our so-called modern thinkers. He knew that leadership without wisdom is dangerous. That knowledge without ethics is hollow. That a society without a moral compass will always drift toward destruction. And so he wrote, tirelessly, endlessly, books upon books, building a framework that would shape not only Islamic philosophy but Western thought for centuries to come. In fact, when Europe was rediscovering Aristotle in the 12th century, it was Al-Farabi's interpretations that guided them. His influence seeped into Thomas Aquina's, Maimonides, and countless others. He didn't just translate Aristotle, he explained him. And by doing so, he lit a path forward for those seeking to harmonize philosophy with theology, logic with love, reason with revelation. But perhaps the most important thing Al-Farabi taught us was how to live. Not just how to think, or how to govern, but how to cultivate the inner self. For him, happiness was not found in pleasure or wealth or fame. It was found in the actualization of the intellect, in aligning the soul with truth. True happiness, he said, is the happiness of the philosopher, the one who sees beyond illusion, beyond ego, beyond distraction. The one who lives in accordance with reason and seeks the good not just for himself, but for others. And in that vision, we find a kind of spiritual discipline. A merging of the rational and the sacred. A blueprint not just for the mind, but for the soul. That's what made Al-Farabi great. Not just his intelligence, but his integration. He didn't compartmentalize life. He unified it. For him, the universe made sense, and humans had a role in uncovering that sense, through study, contemplation, and virtuous living. So, what can we learn from Al-Farabi today? That real wisdom isn't loud, it's quiet, steady, and disciplined. That freedom isn't the absence of rules, but alignment with truth. That philosophy is not a relic of the past, but a tool for navigating the chaos of the present. That the greatest leaders are not those who seek power, but those who seek understanding. And most importantly, that the mind, guided by reason and anchored in virtue, can rise above confusion, division, and despair. Al-Farabi lived in a time of great transition, politically, intellectually, and culturally. But rather than retreat into simplicity, he embraced complexity. Rather than reject other civilizations, he learned from them. Rather than impose his views, he clarified the world's wisdom. And in doing so, he left behind something timeless. Not a kingdom. Not a monument. But a mirror for us to look into and ask, am I thinking clearly? Am I living virtuously? Am I contributing to a better society? If even one of those answers is yes, then you are walking the path of the second teacher. And in today's fractured, distracted world, perhaps that's exactly the kind of teacher we need again.